In this video, I'm going to be talking about what it's like to live with chronic pain while also being a very creative and ambitious girly. I'm going to talk about how to rethink success, what that looks like for someone like me and maybe someone like you, why I stopped forcing myself to live like everybody else, and why I think slowing down is so meaningful and actually super important for someone who is struggling with chronic pain. But before we get into it, I just want to give myself a little plug. I have recently started a Patreon community and I'm really excited to introduce you guys to it. I'm sharing a lot of my in-between moments, life updates, music creation stuff, like when it's in the making, cat content of course, early access to my YouTube videos when it's available, oracle card pulls. I've just started a book club as well for all of my girly pops who love to read, and there's so much more on there, so go check it out. I'll leave it in my description so that you can go take a peek if you want to. Thank you. Now let's get on to the video. I've had a really rough couple of days. I have just been in pain, honestly, and I'm not really in too much pain now. There is kind of like a low murmur which kind of is consistently there all the time, but I can live through that. The last couple of days were really tough, so I wanted to talk a bit about that, and not to tell my sob story really, but I want to share it with you. But I also want to talk about how I have adapted my life since realising that chronic pain is part of my life, and how that has completely shaped and changed how I live. Because I'm someone who has really big goals and I'm really ambitious and I've worked really hard my whole life, and it's gotten to a point where I realised that actually I can't keep doing that, and like hustle culture just isn't for me. So yeah, when the pain came back a couple of days ago, previous me would have been someone who pushed through it regardless and felt really guilty that I'd have to stop what I was doing. I'd feel like I was like failing the day, and I'd have a really like negative mindset around the whole thing, which is easily done when you're in constant pain. There's no denying that. I don't treat myself the same way that I did, and I want to talk about that. If you are also someone who goes through chronic pain and or spurts of pain and it really like hinders your life and puts your life on hold like it does for me, maybe I can shed a little bit of light how to build a really beautiful life with a body that just sometimes doesn't cooperate. Something about being in pain, it is physical, but you can't physically see it. It's a very like invisible illness, and it's not just I'm in pain. It also affects my sleep, it affects my mood, it affects my motivation, it often affects my confidence. With all of that, it can be really hard to build a beautiful life when you're going through all of this. But I want to just say right now that it is possible, and although I am nowhere near where I want to be, I feel like my life has become considerably better since I've started making positive changes in my life to actually work with my body rather than see it as my enemy and work against it. I can have the most perfect week planned where I'm planning to do content creation, music, going out with my friends, and sometimes I'll just wake up and I'll be in pain and my body's like, nope, we're not doing that, you're not doing that today, and I have to just roll with the punches sometimes, and that's really tough. And I have spent a lot of time feeling very guilty and very anxious about having to stop my plans and feeling so much guilt around that. The biggest thing that I've had to go through is the grief of realising that actually I can't just do everything that I want to do all the time. I have to be really gentle with myself. I have to notice my patterns and I have to notice what's going on in my body and catch the pain before it gets too bad. And sometimes sometimes it's impossible to do that, and sometimes, like the last 2 days, I've just been like suffering. But today is much better. I feel much more at ease, and the reason that has happened is because I've just allowed myself to roll through the motions, and I'm going to tell you today how I do that and how I can come out of the pain cycle and give myself grace while it's happening. I guess pull myself back without force and without all of this negativity creeping up on me. Let's talk about learning to listen to your body. My instinct, before I knew what was really going on, was to just push through. Grind, grind, grind. Ignore the pain. Push harder. I'll rest later. And I didn't realise that I was doing myself a massive disservice. I couldn't understand why everyone around me seemed to just do things so easily, and yet I was just really struggling. Like, I think probably part of it as well was undiagnosed ADHD, and I'll get onto that in a minute. I definitely felt like I just couldn't do things as easy as everybody else, and a lot of that was to do with just whenever I did push through the pain would come back so much worse, and I'd just have to be in bed. I'd just be stuck in bed, and I'd barely make it to be able to have a shower or to stay hydrated, and it was really tough. And for a long time I thought it was normal because I just didn't know any different. And I know that sounds absolutely crazy. You know, if you're not someone who has really had it been taken seriously, and you've just been encouraged to go, go, go all the time, then what else are you going to do, especially when you're a kid? But now I've realised that that narrative of being go, 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 of being encouraged or pushed to move through all of the struggle, that's not a narrative that comes from me. That's something that I adopted, and I talk a lot about that in my previous video. Go check that out. It was the last video that I made. I realised that in these moments my body was in overdrive, and it was trying to tell me that. It was trying to communicate with me, and I ignored it for so long. But not anymore. Now I'm best friends with my body, and I treat myself really well. Despite the pain that it puts me through, I try to be as kind to my body as I can, because I realize that all of this, it's a protection mechanism. And so I think that follows really nicely onto my backstory, and I'm going to share with you just a little bit about how this happened and why I have chronic pain, because I finally understand it now. When I was about 12 years old, I remember being in the bath and like rolling my shoulders. And if you, obviously you can't do that because you're on camera, but like if you put your hand on my shoulder like here, the whole area just goes like it feels like things are doing this in my back. And I first noticed this when I was 12, and it wasn't painful at the time. As I got older, particularly towards the end of my degree, I started getting in really bad pain in this area, and it was to the point where I was just having to be in bed. Like, I'd have to take whole days off, because it was usually after something like, if I had like quite a full-on day, and I had a lot of full-on days. I used to be the type of girl that would like wake up at 6, go to 3 different gym classes. I'm not even joking. I used to wake up at 6, I'd go to spin for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then I'd be on the treadmill for like 45 minutes while I waited for my next class, and then I'd do Pilates mixed with yoga, and that was like my Saturday routine, plus like massive amounts of coffee. I didn't realise that that was actually causing more harm than good for a body like mine. I started going to the doctors when the pain started getting really bad, and no one could give me any answers. And I have been on this, I reckon, about 7 or 8 year journey, probably close to 8, of going to different doctors. I have seen every type of person that you can imagine. I've been to physio, acupuncture, massage, I've had MRIs, osteopaths, so many different things, and no one could tell me what was going on. People would just say, you're probably stressed, and they were right. I was definitely stressed, but there was so much more going on that I just didn't have the answers to. And so I was just trying to live a normal life. I was being burnt out constantly. I was just working a lot. I was doing my music as well, doing lots of content creation, because this is probably about the 5th YouTube channel I've had. I couldn't understand why I couldn't keep going because I was so motivated, and I really felt that the only way to be successful was to push harder. It turns out that I am actually hypermobile, and I kind of knew it. Like, oh, just hear that crack. I'm very cracky. I can do weird shit with my body that other people maybe can't do. And I actually went on to ChatGPT because I was in so much pain. I was getting nothing from the doctors really, other than I was just spending loads and loads of money on treatments that I didn't even know was working. I was literally spending, well, hundreds of pounds a month to like sort out this, and it wasn't getting sorted. So I went on to ChatGPT on a really bad pain day, and I just went bleh into the voice note part of it, and I was just like, this is everything that I'm going through. I said the whole backstory, which I just told you now, and I explained the specifics of the pain, where it is and what's going on, and they suggested quite a few different things, and I realized that the hypermobility and chronic stress, that together, what is going on is that because I have had such high levels of stress, I've been in fight or flight basically my whole life. On top of that, dealing with undiagnosed ADHD for so many years, my muscles were really tight from the stress, and they are particularly tightening around my hypermobile joints, and that is causing the pain. And for the first time I was like, oh, that makes sense. And for the first time I was able to take productive steps that actually would help me. I wondered for so many years, like, I do yoga every day, like, why is this not helping me? It's because I was overstretching. Because I'm hypermobile and my muscles are getting even more tense. And so now, I've adjusted my whole life, and it's not to say that pain never happens, because it does, and I've had a really rough week, to be honest. But now I understand myself more and I can work through the pain. I do a lot of TRE, which is trauma release exercises, and it's basically where you trigger your body to shake. You know how like when animals get scared or shocked or something, and then they will like shiver? Well, we can do that as well. And so I have started doing that. I started doing that over a year ago, and that has been what has changed the pain so much and made it so much less, so that it's not an everyday thing, because it was literally every single day of my life for years that I was just suffering, could hardly get out of bed, I could barely make it to work, and sometimes I'd just be like, just unfunctional. Now the pain is very inconsistent, at least it's much less now, and I've learned how to treat what's going on much better. So anyway, that's my backstory on the chronic pain, and let me know if you have something similar. I'd love to meet someone who is going through the same thing, not because I want you to be going through the same thing, but actually it's pretty lonely when you're going through something and you feel like you can't relate to anybody, and that is basically what my life has been regarding chronic pain. I don't know anyone who has this exact thing. Let me know in the comments if that's you. Let's get on to the more positive part of this video, which is about adapting your dreams so that you can still pursue your dreams, but in a way that nurtures your body and gives yourself grace. This is about adapting your dreams rather than abandoning them. I have always wanted a really full life. I've always wanted to be busy and booked. I've always wanted to have loads of exciting things going on. I want to have a really amazing music career. I want to build a community of like-minded individuals. And I've realized now that I need to go about it in a different way to what is basically promoted online through like hustle culture, grind culture. That is not my path. And I realize that now, and I don't feel guilty about that. I've made some switches. Instead of working 12-hour days, which is something that I would do due to having ADHD and getting really into my hyperfocus, also just working really hard in general, rather than doing that, I allow myself so much more time to do things. I have a light schedule based around the things that I want to stay consistent with. Rather than trying to cram a massive to-do list into one day, I spread it over a couple of days, and I allow myself to not complete everything if I'm feeling in pain. I work with my energy now rather than against it. Instead of chasing productivity, I now chase consistency and the things that I can control within that. So for example, I do one YouTube video a week and I make short form. If my energy is really good, I will make the short form individually, like separate from the main video. If I'm not feeling good, then I will use the main long form video to create my short form. You know, it's all about making adjustments rather than just throwing in the towel and being like, I can't do anything, because you can. You can live a life that you want, but you have to make adjustments and you have to be kind to yourself rather than forcing yourself through. Rather than forcing myself through the pain, I now create a system that works for me, and that is in the shape of having a night routine, which is, to be honest, even if I'm not in that much pain, I will still put a load of tiger balm on my back, because sometimes I'll just get into bed and the pain will just flare and I'll be like, oh, I'm already in bed now, and I'll just try and, like, you know, sleep through it, and I can't sleep if I'm in pain. So every night I'll start my night really early. Like sometimes I'll drink a sleepy tea at like 5 or 6 in the evening just to slow myself down gradually, and then I'll slowly get ready. I'll put my tiger balm stuff on and I'll do some light stretching, I'll do some reading, I'll put on a comfort show, and a lot of the time that takes away the focus from the pain. And you know, I don't force myself through it. And that's also the same in the mornings as well. I used to be someone that would literally wake up with anxiety, with a jolt, and I do still wake up with anxiety, and I talked about that in my previous video as well. But nowadays I take things really slowly. You know, I'll wake up, I have a cup of tea, and I'll just potter around, do my skincare and just light an incense, do journaling. That's really important to me at the moment. And I just allow myself to take things really slowly. And then when I do start my day, I feel really rejuvenated rather than like rushed and on edge. As I've said, it's linked to stress. And so for me, I have to keep my stress down as much as possible. I'm going to talk about why I choose a slower lifestyle. I have chosen to take a pace that supports my nervous system rather than what supports this society that we live in. I don't care about that. You know, my health is what's most important to me now. I don't care about trying to show that I am the most hardworking, I am the most deserving of success, because I know that I am. I know that I am in myself. I don't need to externally prove that by hurting myself. What is important to me now is to choose a path that actually makes me feel really good, and even on the painful days, I can still look after myself and love myself without feeling so much pressure. The ways that you can slow your life down, the ways that have really helped me: waking up naturally if you can, take a slower morning, go into nature every day if you can. I know it's been a bit difficult recently because the weather's been really hot, but even if it's just for like 5 minutes, just going for a walk. Avoid constant rushing, rest when you need to, and create a calm pace and also a calm space. I have been surrounded by hoarders my entire life. I have gone the opposite route. This is probably part of why I chose van life, and honestly van life does allow me to have a slower life, so it really fits me from a chronic pain point of view, but also from like a minimalist point of view. I hate clutter. Clutter stresses me out. I don't want to be around clutter. My space reflects that. My space is somewhere that I want to come back to every day that makes me feel peace. Another thing that helps me live a slow life is to plan my days around how I feel rather than what I feel should be expected of me. I build my routine around health rather than work, because at this point I love working. I'm really passionate about what I do, but my health comes first. If I'm not healthy, then I can't focus on the things that I'm passionate about. I used to go out all the time when I was a university student. I'd go out partying and then I'd wake up the next day and go to the gym. Like, I was go, 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 because that's what I expected of myself, and a lot of it was really good fun. But as my health declined, I realized that this is not something that is right for me. It totally fried me, to be honest. Now I have intentionally chosen a slow life because it means that I can still be ambitious, but I do it at a pace that is healthy for me. And I think that's something that we can all take from this, whether you are in pain or not. Learning to work around your health rather than expectations is what's really important. Let's talk about how life can still be beautiful even when you're in pain. By the way, when I say that, I'm not saying that like, oh, you can make your life so good, because when you're in pain, nothing feels good. When you're in pain, like, it's really hard to distract yourself. Like, it makes you miserable, and there is no denying that. I'm not saying to make your life beautiful when you're in pain is like a fluffy thing. What I think is really important though is even when you're in pain, even when you're suffering, it's important to look for glimmers in life, and that can be in the shape of, you know, just noticing the things that make life beautiful, whether that's drinking a tea intentionally, going outside foraging, looking at mushrooms and moss and flowers, and just realizing that actually, despite what's going on internally for you, externally there is a lot of beauty that you can still notice. Creating a life for yourself that, in despite of pain and suffering, you can lighten the load on yourself so much by creating a space that feels beautiful. Candles, lighting, actually having open space, not feeling cluttered, as I said. Rainy mornings when you're inside drinking tea. What I've realized is that those tiny moments become really meaningful, because you're no longer just dragging yourself through life feeling hopeless. You're actually intentionally noticing the world around you. Being mindful, I think, is probably the best way to encapsulate that. If I could, I would spend every single day being as creative as possible. But I have learned to balance things a bit better now. If I'm having a really bad pain day, I'll often journal about how that feels. And then oftentimes those journaling exercises will become lyrics, and then later on when I'm feeling better, those lyrics will become songs. And so you can use your struggle to create something beautiful in whatever way that is for you. I think that you can find meaning within all of this. Something within that is that it helps me with my confidence a lot, still being able to do little things towards being creative, because confidence is just a trust within yourself. And if you can trust yourself to look after yourself when things are bad, then your confidence will grow even when you're in pain. When your body constantly lets you down, it's really easy to stop trusting yourself. Every time you adapt, every time you recover, every time you just do a sprinkle of creativity, you're teaching your body to rebuild that trust. And I think that is a really important thing. Let's talk about what I have gained, because yeah, I have lost a lot from being in chronic pain, and I don't want to sugarcoat it and be like, pain is such a blessing. I don't want to throw toxic positivity at you. However, I do believe that even though things in life can be taken away from these experiences, you gain a lot through the process. Chronic pain has taught me patience, more so than anything, patience with myself. It's taught me compassion with myself. Because of chronic pain, I am my best friend now. I look out for myself more than anyone, as it should be. I have so much resilience, which I never even knew was possible. I'm so fucking strong. Because of what I've had to go through with chronic pain, I'm not scared of so much, you know? I can move across the country multiple times and it doesn't faze me. You know, of course it's scary, but it's like, if I can be in pain for most of my life and I can still create this beautiful, abundant life for myself, there is nothing that I can't do. I just have to change the shape of how it looks sometimes. I have so much gratitude for the small wins in life. I've really learned how to celebrate myself in the last couple of years. I have mad self-awareness, that's for sure. I have really strong boundaries. Don't fuck with me. I have a real big appreciation for life. I'm so grateful for the days that are healthy, and I have a huge appreciation for the life that I've created and the life that I've built, because it is uniquely mine. If it weren't for chronic pain, I don't know if I'd have learned how to get out of fight or flight and to pursue a more slower, intentional life, a life that I actually genuinely enjoy much more than hustle culture. So although chronic pain has taken away so much, and it's really easy to ruminate on those things, I feel like it has also given me so many blessings that I cannot ignore. It's really important to remember what these negative experiences give you and how you can learn from them to become your best version. Maybe the point isn't to never struggle. Maybe it's to become someone who's gentle enough to hold you while you do. And I'm gonna leave you with that thought. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a beautiful day.